Fat Joe has been trending this past few weeks for his comments on Math Hoffa's podcast, mainly for his comments on hip-hop, Latinos, and FBA, Foundational Black Americans, a group that not too many of you knew about just 3 weeks ago before this ordeal. This isn't the first time Fat Joe has gone viral for his comments on hip-hop. A couple of years ago, he caught a lot of heat for saying, quote, Latinos and blacks created hip-hop 50-50. Now, I don't know if I agree or can confirm with the percentage of 50-50, but what I don't like about this FBA group is that they are saying that Latinos had no impact on the culture and creation of what we know as hip-hop today. I don't know the 50-50 percentage thing Fat Joe said. I don't know if it's 30-70, 60-40, 20-80. But I do know there is no way Latinos contributed zero to the creation of hip-hop like FBA are claiming. Shortly after Fat Joe went viral the first time a couple of years ago for saying blacks and Latinos both created hip-hop, I went through my Rolodex. And by Rolodex, I mean my phone. I went through my Rolodex of hip-hop pioneers in my phone. Because yes, I know a lot of people in this industry and a lot of pioneers. I do a show every single Tuesday with a pioneer of hip-hop. You'd be surprised on who I know. You people in the comments, silly people out there. But I went through my Rolodex and I decided to call Prince Whipperwhip, a person who had been on my show twice before in the past, before that whole Fat Joe thing happened a couple of years ago. I wanted Whipperwhip on my show to discuss Fat Joe's statements back then. Now, this goes back to September 2022. Thankfully, at the time of our call, Whipperwhip had no idea that Fat Joe even made these comments. So everything we discussed that day was fresh to him. He had no idea Fat Joe had just gone viral for saying blacks and Latinos both created hip-hop. And my guess is he had no idea who or what FBA even meant back then. But shortly after my interview with him, Lord Jamar, hip-hop legend, podcaster, YouTuber, had him on his show, and they discussed the same exact thing. But I'm going to play a portion of my interview with Whipperwhip where we discussed Fat Joe's comments a couple of years ago. And then I want you to go check out the interview that Whipperwhip did with Lord Jamar shortly after he did the interview with me, because I was the first one to have Whipperwhip on my show to discuss this situation. But will Whipperwhip agree with Fat Joe? Or will he agree with people like Lord Jamar and FBA who say hip-hop was only created by foundational black Americans? Let's go back to September 2022. God, it seems like a lifetime ago. Before we do, please hit that like button. And if this is your first time joining the channel, please hit that subscribe button, excuse me. Here is Prince Whipperwhip on my show about 2.5 years ago, right after Fat Joe went viral the first time. Before we get started, Prince, I just had Mr. Schick from The Mean Machine on my show, and he briefly mentioned De La Calle, the MTV documentary series. Tell me a little bit about that before we get started.
Well, I mean, before folks get, before history gets rewritten, somebody was wise enough to get direct info while we're still alive. Hey, but no, they were doing the just that basically. How can I reword it? The anatomy of hip hop. It's kind of like the Latinos the Latin aspect of his hip hop, because we've basically been around since day one. So all of a sudden,
did you hear that? We've been around since day one. But let's continue. This is just him talking about an upcoming documentary that he was going to be in, discussing the Latinos' contribution to hip hop. I wonder if it ever came out. They're probably, I'm telling you, man, I know a lot of people. I know a lot of pioneers. I've discussed this with a lot of people. And unfortunately now, a lot of them are afraid to come out and tell the truth about how they really feel. But believe me, that behind the scenes, they tell me what's really going on. But unfortunately, we live in this cancel culture, this doxing culture, this other kind of culture where if you disagree with a large group of people, you might just have problems on your hands. So they want to just not even worry about all that. But when we're sitting behind the scenes, having a brew, discussing this stuff, they're letting it be known. But anyway, this is Prince Whipperwhip on my show 2.5 years ago. And we're going to be discussing the Fat Joe situation from when he went viral back then.
So, and I think now everybody's getting conscious over who did what first and who's contributing and all that good stuff that, just makes this crazy world go round.
Well, you know what, man, that's exactly why I wanted you on, and that was the main conversation I had with Mr. Schick of the Mean Machine, because he was there at the beginning of hip-hop. Shout out Mr. Schick of the Mean Machine. I also interviewed him, hip-hop pioneer, Latino hip-hop pioneer. But let's keep going. Prince Whipperwhip is about to get into the Fat Joe situation. Early stages, and you were definitely there as well. Your name was brought up in our interview. And, you mentioned history being rewritten. And, right now we have a bunch of 22-year-olds, 23-year-olds running with certain narratives of hip-hop and who created it, who was there, who wasn't there, who started it, this, and that. But I want your opinion on this, my dude. Fat Joe is getting a lot of backlash about his comments on early hip-hop. Are you familiar with what's been going on with him for the past couple of days?
No, I haven't.
Oh, okay, fine. I'm glad that it makes it even more better. He had no idea what we were talking about, so that made it even better. How awesome. He had no idea that Fat Joe had just went viral. These are Prince Whipperwhip's fresh views right after finding out that Fat Joe went viral for saying both blacks and Latinos created hip-hop. Let's see what Prince Whipperwhip had to say, just not even knowing anything about anything. Hip-hop. Are you familiar with what's been going on with him for the past couple of days?
No, I haven't.
Okay, fine. I'm glad that it makes it even more better. So he's been facing some backlash. He said, and I quote, "Blacks and Latinos both created hip-hop 50-50. And for some reason that has, some are agreeing, some are disagreeing, but it has made him gone viral, and there's been a lot of negativity attached to it. But you were there. What are your thoughts on his comment? Is Fat Joe spot on, or is he way off?
He's not spot on and he's not way off. He's kind of right. I mean, we were there. I mean, let's look at it. Whip was there. He was there. And the first people that I see, even before hip hop, the first folks that I've seen were mostly white and Latino, who were graph writers, and blacks, of course, who were all group.
The first people he's seen related to hip-hop, because graffiti is an element of hip-hop. It's one of the, if not the original main elements of hip-hop. He just said it was whites and Latinos mainly doing graph. That's why it kills me when I hear you people, when I ask you, who give me the name of the person who created hip-hop, and you say Cornbread. 1969. It's almost like you're a fucking robot just repeating whatever you heard on some stupid podcast. You're going to tell me Cornbread is the first person to write his name on a wall illicitly, which is the true definition of graffiti. For anyone who doesn't know, I'm going to keep reminding you. You're telling me Cornbread was the first person to do that in 1969? You're telling me that. But this is a rap pioneer right here. Fresh off the news of what Fat Joe said back then of Latinos and blacks creating hip-hop 50-50. And he took it back to graffiti before MCing, because a lot of you people, we're talking hip-hop and you're talking rap. Hip-hop is the house, rap is a room in the house. But you think rap and hip-hop are both the house. And that just shows me your depth of knowledge that you have on hip hop. Okay, hip hop is one of the rooms in the house. Rap is one of the rooms in hip hop that is the house. Hip hop is the house. You got the rap room, you got the DJing room, you got the b-boying room, and you got the graffiti room. And knowledge, we'll add knowledge, right? Now, this man right here, hip hop pioneer, Prince Whipperwhip, a legit source who Lord Jamar had on his show. Legit source is saying it was whites and Latinos. Before there was rap, there was graffiti, which is the main element of hip. Oh my God. All right.
What are your thoughts on his comment? Is Fat Joe spot on or is he way off?
He's not spot on and he's not way off. He's kind of right. I mean, we were there. I mean, let's look at it. Whip was there. He was there. The first people that I see, even before hip hop, the first folks that I seen were mostly white and Latino who were graph writers, and blacks, of course, who were all graffiti writers. Then, of course, we come up with this genre of music, which everybody tried to title and retitle, but of course it definitely got to stand for Keep Cowboy. And
did white people and Latinos create hip hop? This legend right here is saying that it was mostly Latinos and white people doing graffiti. You guys are gonna argue with me? You're gonna argue with the legend, a pioneer who was there? Who else are you gonna argue with? You ding dongs in the comment section. Like, you people in the comment section need to get a life. And just kind of use your common sense. The good Lord above gave us common sense, and you dingalings in the comment section don't want to use it. But let's continue with Whipperwhip, pioneer, discussing the Fat Joe comments.
It's what are you gonna say? We were all there. It's hard to say that. I understand the feelings that are being had because it was because back in the day.
Is this thing on? Is this thing on? We were all there. By we, he means blacks, Latinos, whites. It's Prince Whipperwhip. This is before everything now. Take yourself back to 2022, right? This isn't 2025, right? This isn't 2025. So that makes this interview all the more important. This is him, Prince Whipperwhip, Latino hip-hop pioneer, giving you his fresh thoughts on when he just heard the Fat Joe thing. He hadn't even heard it yet before I called him right here. So let's keep it pushing.
Hip-hop, people were considering hip-hop to be a black thing. And of course, it's gotten all the backlash because everybody tried to hate on it. Yo, you've seen how they rolled tractors over DVDs and CDs, and so it's like anything that is affiliated with Negroes, with people of color. Of course, the masses are like, "Hey, this is no good." They didn't say that about rock and roll. Yeah, they did. They gave Elvis some flack, but all the greats get flack. We were there definitely from the beginning, and we're still here.
This is a Latino man speaking. We were there from the beginning. Latinos didn't just pop up in 1978 and say, "Hey, we could rap and we can b-boy and we can DJ and we can breakdance and we can do all of that." Yeah. I know we're dressed like cowboys or whatever they tried to say. Like, what are you guys saying? All my life, I knew Latinos were a big contributor to hip hop. Before the internet, when I was coming up, I just knew it. We all knew it. We all have family in New York. We have friends. We watch documentaries. We do our own thing. We were looking at pictures. Goddamn pictures in the 1970s was all blacks and Latinos. We saw this. So now there's this new narrative. since this new group is invented, and now there's this new narrative that Latinos had zero contribution to the creation and culture of hip hop. This man right here, Prince Whipperwhip, was telling you dang near 3 years ago that they were there.
And now, I mean, who's relevant, who's not? These and so it's like anything that is affiliated with Negroes, with people of color. Of course, the masses are like, hey, this is no good. They didn't say that about rock and roll. Yeah, they did. They gave Elvis some flack. But all the greats get flack. We were there definitely from the beginning. And we're still here now. I mean, who's relevant, who's not? To me, I don't see color. I never saw color until after I joined the military and went to the Navy. That's when I really seen prejudice, because I grew up in New York, which is a melting pot. We got Chinese, black people. My name,
New York, which is a melting pot, straight up melting pot. It's not just FBA or whatever people are trying to. It wasn't just that. This whole melting pot contributed to the creation and culture of hip hop. Hip hop wouldn't be what if you just took out. Look, once again, I don't know if it's 70-30, 60-40, 20-80. But I guarantee if you took out, in hypothetical world, if you took out the Latino or the Hispanic person from the equation of hip hop, it wouldn't be the same thing. To the beats and everything, to the way there was breaking when the beat, certain part of the beat would break down, like it would have changed. It would have changed. I'm sorry, it would have changed. Hip hop would not be the same without the Latinos' contribution. Period. Point blank.
we were all one and we were all brothers. And I'm talking Chinese, black, Jewish, white. So I grew up, luckily, in a beautiful neighborhood with some beautiful people. But then again, of course, this world turned into some madness. And like I said, hip hop, at the end of the day, it veered from disco into a street scene. Who's in the street? Blacks and Puerto Ricans.
It went from the discotheque, to the streets. And who was in the streets at that time? Blacks and Puerto Ricans. Does it get more clear? Does it need to get any more clear?
I didn't even really see that many Dominicanos back in the day. But now you look all over New York, you don't know who's who from what. You could be Puerto Rican, Dominican, Colombian, Haitian, Cuban, Brazilian. So, you can't say spot on or spot off, but he definitely, he's telling the truth.
He's telling the truth. And none of this was edited. You can go check out the interview. It's on my channel, titled Latinos and Blacks Both Created Hip Hop, Prince Whipperwhip. And this is him right there saying Fat Joe is telling the truth, that both blacks and Latinos created hip hop. Would he say a different thing in 2025? I don't know. Maybe I'll give him a buzz and have him back on my show soon, because I am going to give him I'm going to set something up, because I would love to hear his thoughts in 2025, because I haven't heard anything. The only thing I've heard from Whipperwhip was when he went on Lord Jamar about a week after he came on my show. That's right. I was the first one to have Prince Whipperwhip on my show to discuss the Fat Joe situation. Me before your biggest podcast. My Rolodex goes just as deep as your favorite podcaster. Because I mess with some legends. I mess with legends. I mess with pioneers. I'm damn near 50 years old. I know people older than I'm not gonna brag about myself, but I know some people, man. Prince Whipperwhip told you right there, ladies and gentlemen, that Fat Joe was telling the truth. Fat Joe was telling the truth.
You could be Puerto Rican, Dominican, Colombian, Haitian, Cuban, Brazilian. So, you can't say spot on or spot off, but he definitely, he's telling the truth. Spot on. But he definitely, he's telling the truth. The truth. And we were there, and he. So
I'm just playing it back because I want you to hear this shit over and over again.
You can't say spot on or spot on, but he definitely, he's telling the truth.
Blacks and Puerto Ricans both created hip hop. Facts. FBA needs to knock it off with that. Everything else they're doing for reparations and all that I've read up on in the past week or so, because I'm new to this thing too. I've heard FBA in the past, but I haven't dove deep into it. This is probably the best advertisement, not me personally, but this Fat Joe thing is probably the best advertisement for FBA, because no one knew who FBA was just 3 weeks ago. Now everybody's, I'm FBA, and got Crips talking about their FBA, and what are you? I had people in my Crips in my comments. I had Cuban Link in my comments, and I verified that it was the real Cuban Link, and I'm going to do a separate show on my reaction to Cuban Links. Shout out to Cuban Link. Don't know much about his music, but I do know he was down with the Terror Squad, and he has an interesting story. But he wasn't too excited about me siding with Fat Joe. And then he started discussing other things about Fat Joe's business motives and business past dealings and things. Look, bro, I don't know anything about any of that. I don't know anything about that, Cuban Link. Just because I agree with a man on one certain topic doesn't mean I agree with them on everything. That would be very weird, right? I don't agree with anybody about everything. Like, I know people who are damn near my twin, and we still have differences. I don't, you know what I mean? So I don't, just because I agree with Fat Joe that Latinos and blacks contributed to hip hop doesn't mean I agree with what Fat Joe may or may not have done with Big Pun's estate and any other thing like that. That's not my bag. That's above my pay grade. But I do appreciate you checking in, Cuban Link. You're definitely doing your thing on your social media and your podcasts and your YouTube thing that you have going on there. Definitely seen your name popping up. And I appreciate you checking in the comments. I might as well go into them now. Shit, while I'm talking about it, right? Let's see. All right. So Cuban Links, this is the original Cuban. This isn't the first time he's been in my comments. It seems like every time I react to this Fat Joe situation, he's honest. I don't know if he's a subscriber. I don't know if he is, or he just gets the notification whenever I pop up, but he's been in my comment section quite frequently. And this is the original Cuban Links, 24K on YouTube. He says, just 2 hours ago, you say you don't want FBA representing you, but yet you let Fat Joe represent you and the Latino community as a spokesman. And you probably sided with Fat Joe when he let Pun's family go to the shelter after robbing Pun's estate, huh? SMH. So I replied to Cuban Link, I don't want any group or organization representing me, actually. I represent me. I left it at that. And the conversation continues. For some reason, these YouTube comments are weird. Let me see if I can get it from my phone. It would be better, actually. I don't like how YouTube does that. Hold on. Where's my phone? Hold on. All right. It's easier to read the comments on my phone because I want to reply respectfully to Cuban Link. So I'm going to take it back. He says, you say you don't want FBA representing you, but you let Fat Joe represent you and the Latino community as a spokesman. And you probably sided with Fat Joe when he let Pun's family go to the shelter after robbing Pun's estate, huh? SMH. And my reply to Cuban Link was, I don't want any group or organization representing me, actually. I represent me. And that is the truth. Don't lump me into your group. Because I may not agree with I know I don't agree with 100% of what you guys say. Like, don't lump me into the FBA. Because I know there are a lot of things based on what I've read that I disagree with them about. There are some I agree with them on, and there's some I disagree with them about. I'm still learning about this group. You call it a lineage, whatever it's called. I'm going to call it a group until I know more. Group, organization. I mean, they tried to, every time I went to their website, and they're trying to sell me hats, beanies, and flags. That sounds like an organization, a group, something to me. So I'm going to lump them in there with the Black Lives Matter and things like that. Respectfully. But I don't include me in any of your groups. I don't want to be in your group. I represent myself. When I walk out there, when I walk out on the streets, ain't nobody being like, hey, there's that group right there. No, there's Dusty Vision, and how is he gonna act? How is he gonna represent himself? So don't let me in no group. He replied back, understood. But Joe's been no good in our neck of the woods, so you should do your homework and find out all you could, because I assure you he's selling you that oil that's fake and disloyal, a snake in a coil. Thank you for the rhyme. Thank you for the rhyme, Cuban Link. I replied back. It sounds like Cuban Link and Fat Joe may have some past dealings in business that they both didn't agree on, right? Is it safe to say from reading this? And I respect that, but that's not my fight. I'm not in this. So I replied back with, you know more about his business dealings than I do. Just because I agree with a man on one issue doesn't mean I agree with them on everything. And that's where we left it. He has not replied back. This was about an hour ago that I replied, so he'll probably get back to me. I'm sure he's a busy man. You know, covering all this Fat Joe stuff keep your calendar booked. You know what I mean? Fat Joe may turn the internet on fire, and he knew what he was doing. I remember watching that clip. I support Matt Hoffa. He's one of my favorite people to watch. And as soon as that clip was released, it said like 8 minutes on the thing. It said released 8 minutes ago, and it had like 1,000 views or whatever in those first 10 minutes or whatever. But I remember hearing that as soon as Fat Joe said that, and I was like, oh shit, the internet's about to be on fire. Fat Joe knows what he's doing, and he probably just sold a bunch more streams. But sorry, going back to Cuban Link. Look, I don't know about his relation to Pun's estate. I don't know about his business dealings with you, but respectfully, that's not my fight. And once again, just because I agree with someone on one thing doesn't mean that I agree on what they may or may not have done. I don't know so I'm going to say may or may not. But I do appreciate you checking in, man. I definitely do appreciate you. I appreciate your story. When it comes to hip-hop, I know you have an amazing story just with life and what you've seen in the industry. So much respect to you, Cuban Link. And I appreciate you tapping in. And I appreciate all you tapping in out there as well. Even you haters, even you newcomers who just, for whatever reason, you hate to listen, but you still stick around. You still just watch and listen. So shout out to you guys. Shout out to you guys. I appreciate you. Appreciate you very, very much. But I do appreciate my loyal supporters. And I'm going to ask if this is your first time joining the channel. If you like what you hear, you hate it, you're entertained, whatever, I'm going to ask you to hit that subscribe button. Because there's more coming. There's more coming from DustyVisionTV. And if you have not already, hit that like button before you head out the building, because that really helps out my algorithm as well. I do appreciate you tuning in, and I'm sure we'll be discussing this more in the near future. I'll talk to you soon. Peace.